In this video, I'm going to be going over 3 of the most important housing market stats that all buyers and sellers must pay attention to if they're thinking of buying or selling a home. Understanding these key metrics is absolutely vital to knowing where your home stands in your local housing market. After watching the video, I encourage you to take a little time for yourself to analyze your home within the context of these numbers. These stats can't simply be understood on the surface. You have to take your knowledge of them and know how to apply them to your own situation. So let's get started. The first stats we're going to discuss are new listings and closed sales. Now, I combine these two into one category because to me, I think they're really 2 sides of the same coin. New listings, obviously, are the amount of new homes on the market, and closed sales are the amount of homes that have been sold in a specific place within a given time frame. New listings will give both buyers and sellers a good idea on immediate, short-term supply, and closed sales will tell you past supply and effective completed market activity. More importantly though, both of these stats play a crucial role in the law of price determination, supply and demand, a term you will hear me use all the time. For example, to start with new listings. If there's a greater number of new listings in your real estate market, that means there's greater supply, which drives prices lower because there's less competition for each home. Same with closed sales. If you see that there's a higher number of closed sales in your neighborhood, that usually indicates there's a lot of homes being put on the market, supply side economics. It could indicate high demand as well. If there's a lot of closed sales, well, obviously a lot of homes are being bought, so a lot of buyers want homes, duh. And it's very important to know this distinction. The inverse is also true. If there's a lower number of new listings or closed sales, that means there's lower supply, which means there's more competition from buyers for each individual home, which drives prices upwards. This is when sellers throw their party, basically. Once again, it's important to not only understand what these numbers are, but how to interpret them and apply them to your own scenario. Because what could be considered a high number of new listings or closed sales in your real estate market could just as easily be considered a lower number of new listings or closed sales in a different nearby area. Next up, we have days on market. Bottom line, any realtor with any bit of knowledge whatsoever will emphasize the importance of this data point to their clients. Unlike new listings and closed sales, days on market is a stat that's usually used when analyzing a singular home, although it can be used for the same reasons on a larger scale as the previous stats we discussed. Generally speaking though, days on market is used to analyze the overall quality of a specific home on the market in relation to its listing price. In other words, how long a home is on the market for, its days on market, is dependent upon the overall quality of the home in the eyes of the consumer when the consumer is also taking into consideration how much it would cost to purchase it. For example, if a new, high-quality, 7-bed, 7-bath mansion in Miami is put on the market for only $599,000, well, its days on market is going to be minuscule. Why? Because it's a significantly higher quality home that's put on the market for way below its market value. So it's going to be bought immediately. And of course, the opposite is also true. If I take a piece of junk property infested with termites with a rotten smell and loads of unpaid mortgage debt, and I put it on the market for way above its actual market value, the thing ain't gonna sell. It could be on the market for months or even years, or at the very least, until the listing agent and his or her seller client come to their senses and drop the asking price significantly. As you can see, the interpretation of days on market is essentially it's the market telling the seller what it thinks of his or her home. Now, on a broader scale, when evaluating the days on market, not just for a singular home, but over a longer period of time in a larger geographical area, the stat then, in my opinion, functions similarly to the new listings and closed sales stat. It tells you, on the whole, how quickly homes are being bought in a specific location over a specific time frame, which basically plays into the aspect of supply and demand. A lower days on market, meaning homes are selling more quickly, usually coincides with higher demand and or low supply. While on the flip side, a higher days on market usually coincides with less demand, fewer buyers, and more expensive prices. Lastly, we have inventory. Inventory is the amount of time it will take in a specific market for all the homes to be purchased off the market until there are none left. Now, why is this important? Because low inventory equals lower supply, which means less options for buyers, which means more competition among buyers, which drives prices upwards. I think you guys get the point by now. There's sort of a through line, sort of a similar backbone to all these stats that I'm showing you. On the flip side, in markets with higher levels of inventory, there's obviously more homes to choose from, which gives more leverage to the buyers. Now you're probably wondering, how do you calculate housing inventory? Well, before we get to that, I think it's important to understand this sort of unwritten but agreed upon rule in the real estate market. And the rule is, if there's 6 months of inventory or more, that's usually considered a buyer's market. Whereas if there's 3 months of inventory or less, that's usually considered a seller's market. And if it's somewhere in the middle, the 4 to 5 month range, that's usually considered a neutral market. Now, why is this the case? Well, in order to calculate inventory, you simply use the following equation. Inventory equals homes for sale divided by homes sold. That's it. For example, take the town of Jericho, New York. On average, over the last 3 months, there have been 61 residential homes for sale on a month-to-month basis, compared to 12 homes being sold over that same time frame on a month-to-month basis. Well, 61, the number of homes for sale, divided by 12, the number of homes being sold, is roughly 5, as in 5 months of inventory, which is a neutral market. So what does this mean exactly? Well, if homes were to continue to sell in Jericho at this same expected pace of 12 homes per month, that means Jericho would run out of homes to sell in about 5 months, or it has 5 months left of inventory. That's how the stat works, and I think you can see why it's so important. Now that you have a better understanding of these market stats, I encourage you to take some time for yourself to evaluate them within the context of either the housing market you live in now or the housing market that you plan on moving to in the future. Not to mention, there are a ton of other ways to use your knowledge of these stats that I didn't even cover in this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about the topics I covered, feel free to comment down below. If you have any questions involving real estate, or you need some support in either buying or selling a property, my email, phone, and brokerage will all be down in the description below. Thank you for watching. A like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. Have a wonderful day and please take care.